Shalom Aleichem, Mishnah Yomi for Erev Shavuot continues in Gittin. We are beginning the second chapter, Perek Bet. Hamevi get Medinat Hayam. A messenger is bringing a get from outside of Eretz Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael, as we had in the very first Mishnah. And we explained in great detail, he is supposed to testify that it was written and signed in front of him. But now we have a problem. The Amar, and the messenger says, Bifanai nichtav, indeed the get was written before me, avalo bifanai nechtam, but I didn't see it signed. Or, bifanai nechtam, yeah, I saw them sign it, avalo bifanai nichtav, I didn't see the actual drafting of it before the signatures. Or he says, bifanai nichtav kulo, I saw them write up the entire document, b'fanai nechtam chetzio, but I saw them sign halfway, meaning I saw one witness sign out of the two witnesses total. Or he says, b'fanai nichtav chetzio, I saw them write half of it in front of me, b'fanai nechtam kulo, and they signed, both witnesses signed in front of me, puzzle. In all of these cases, the get, unfortunately, is not valid because we're not convinced that everything was kosher and done kedat Gittin, done properly in the drafting and signing of this get. As we explained back in the first chapter, there are concerns. Not everyone was drafting or signing Gittin lishma for the sake of this particular couple and this particular divorce act. There are also concerns Rava had about having witnesses available for the woman to validate the get later on if there was a question. Now, the Bartanura points out from the Gemara about this last case, he saw it written halfway. Well, what do you mean written halfway? So there's two parts of each get. There's the Toref. Now, the Toref is sort of the main part of the get regarding this particular couple. It has the names, the city, the date. It's sort of the main thing. And then there's the Tofes. And the Tofes is sort of the form, the part that's the same in each get, the standard language. Now, in the Gemara, they conclude that if this messenger saw the Toref, the specific part, the main part with the names and the dates, he saw that part written lishma, then the rest of it's sort of, there's a leniency that the rabbis enabled about the Tofes part, the less critical part that appears in every get. Now, the Mishnah brings a variation. Echad Omer, one messenger comes and says, B'fanai nichtav. He says, yes, I saw them drafting it correctly. Echad Omer, and another person says, B'fanai nechtam. I saw them sign it correctly. Puzzle. It's still not valid until you have one person attesting to both parts. What about Shnayim Omrim B'fanenu nichtav? Two people say it was written in front of us. Echad Omer B'fanai nechtam. And one says it was signed in front of us, in front of me. Puzzle, because again, you don't have one person attesting to the entire process. Rabbi Yehuda machshir. Rabbi Yehuda does allow it because we have two separate people saying they saw the writing was done correctly. So the shaliach, the messenger, doesn't have to talk about the writing. He can talk about the signing, and he's believed about that. Now the Mishnah brings the reverse. Echad omer b'fanai nechtav. One says it was written in front of me. Shnayim omer b'fanenu nechtam. And two people say we saw the signatures. Kosher. Everyone agrees this get is kosher. Once we have two witnesses that it was signed correctly, it is completely valid. No one can question those signatures later. Let's go on to Mishnah Bet. Nichtav bayom, the get was written during the day. V'nechtam bayom, and signed that day. Or balayla, it's written at nighttime. V'nechtam balayla, signed that same night. Or balayla, it's written at nighttime. V'nechtam bayom, and signed the following day in the morning. Kosher. In all of these cases, it's kosher. Again, in Jewish law, Vayhi Erev, Vayhi Boker, it's the same day. The day starts at night. So at midnight, it's the same day, the following noon. However, the Mishnah adds Bayom, it's written during the day, V'nechtam Balayla, and then it's signed that night, even if it's just 10 minutes later, an hour later, Pasul, because now the signatures were not on the same halachic date as the drafting. Now, the Gemara explains one of the concerns is a case where an uncle marries a niece, and unfortunately she's arrested for infidelity, and the uncle tries to be mechape al batachoto. He's trying to cover up for her, so he basically drafts up a get dated, coincidentally, the date before the alleged affair took place, And if he could get such a get signed, then she'll bring that out into court and says, look, you might have proof that I had this affair, but it wasn't an affair because I was no longer married as of, the day before this allegedly took place. So our sages enacted that we can never have a situation where the witnesses signing the get, which is what makes it powerful and valid, comes at a date later than the date written in the actual shtar, in the actual body of the get during the drafting. Rabbi Shimon Machshir, Rabbi Shimon says the get is still kosher. Shachai Rabbi Shimon Omer, because Rabbi Shimon would say, Kol Gittin shenichtavu b'yom, any get written that day, v'nechtemu b'layla, but not signed until the following night. So they're sort of predated. Psulin, every get is puzzle. Now here, get means what we saw in chapter 1, Mishnah 5. It can include a loan, a gift document, and the like. Chutz megittin nashim, except for a get to effect a divorce. He says that is still kosher. Now, by financial documents and deeds and the like, the reason a shtar mukdam, when the date is before it was legally effective, this is invalid because of the concept of Torah mishabodim, shelo Gittin, that a lender could come and collect property to satisfy the debt, even though the borrower had sold this property before the loan took place, if the loan document was predated. There's also an order of operations. The order the land was sold in is the order a creditor could collect in, so if one of the deeds was predated, it will mess up the legal order. Now, Rabbi Shimon says this is not a problem by Gittin nashim, by a divorce document for the wife, because what's the concern? A husband who has the rights to use his wife's property during marriage, as we discussed in Ketuvot, the Nichsei Tzon Barzel, the dowry, that he has the rights to the fruits, but she maintains the title, she actually owns it. Now, if he decides to divorce her, he no longer has rights to use it, even if it's before the date on the get, and even if the get hasn't even been drafted. That's according to Rabbi Shimon. So Rabbi Shimon says if he decides in January to divorce the wife, then even if the get is dated in February, but not even signed and delivered until March, he still had no right to eat the produce, to eat the payrots from that property, and the wife would be able to get it back. Yishar Koach, a happy 49th day of the Omer, Hag Sameach, Shavuot Tov.